everyone. My name is Amy Zhang. I'm the lead projects and data analyst at Workforce Planning Hamilton. It's a great pleasure for me to introduce our guest speaker today, who is going to talk about youth employment in Hamilton, Ontario. This is a subject in which we should all be deeply interested in because the future of Hamilton is in its youth. Investing in youth development and professional growth is at the forefront of Workforce Planning Hamilton's beliefs and goals. With that said, Simranjeet Singh, President of the McMaster Student Union, would you please tell us a bit about yourself and MSU?
Well, thank you very much for having me, Amy. It's a pleasure. I know Workforce Planning Hamilton is an organization that does a lot of great work, and I'm happy to be invited to speak today. I guess a little bit about myself. My name is Simranjeet Singh. I'm a recent graduate of McMaster University from the BDC program. And I've been elected the president of the McMaster Student Union for 2022 to 2023. I can't believe it's already more than a month into my role, but it's stressful so far, but also a lot of great opportunities that have come forward. I'm really looking forward to everything that I can hopefully accomplish this year. Now, regarding the MSU, so the McMaster Student Union is the largest student organization at McMaster. It operates more than 24 businesses and services that benefit the campus community. And it also has things such as a student transit plan and health and dental insurance plans to provide necessary supports for students. Furthermore, it gives representation and provides advocacy on behalf of students to the university as well as all levels of government. It employs hundreds of students throughout the academic year, and we have policies that guarantee that organizations within the MSU pay, in fact, above minimum wage as well. So that's kind of a quick overview of the MSU. We have more than 300 clubs as well, and they really add to the amazing environment that we have here in the McMaster community.
That's great. So the MSU is an integral part of McMaster and represents the student body as a whole. With that said, how is the MSU planning to address youth employment in the Hamilton region, and if there are any goals or contributions it's planning to do regarding this in the fiscal year?
So there's certainly different, areas in which we hope to focus on in the near term. So regarding what specific areas the MSU will focus on, we of course have a very set of different jobs that we offer through our services and businesses. Most of these are part-time, but there are also some full-time roles that are offered, and these help give students gainful employment opportunities that can help them develop their career path from nascency moving forward. Many of these as well are related to specific areas that will be very useful for future job applications. So things such as collaborative work environments, opportunities to develop analytical or research skills, as well as areas in which they can have strong leadership roles. These are all integral parts of what the MSU offers, and we hope that by expanding these in the near future, especially as students return to in-person in the coming academic year, we can give students the necessary foundation from which they can pursue their goals moving forward.
So that's great. So what are some successes MSU has experienced in 2022? And then this can also kind of by extension be in previous years past 2022, so 2021, 2020 as well.
For sure. So one of the biggest successes that we have had has been in conjunction with kind of the whole world, the return to in-person that has been taking place this year. So students at McMaster returned in person in February of 2022, and this coming academic year will be the first since basically 2019 or so, where things have been quote unquote normal, though of course with lots of modifications, I guess you could say. So we're very happy to support that, and it will be allowing our student services and businesses to come back to a level that they have not been at for three years. So that is something that we're very happy that we are looking forward towards. It's something that we do hope will be a great success. In addition, we were able to directly advocate, for example, to political parties before the Ontario provincial election. We helped gain support for important student causes as well. So that's something that we also would like to note as a success. In addition, we will be in the near term renegotiating our bus pass with Hamilton Street Rail, which is the bus service offered in Hamilton. We already offer one of the most competitive rates out of all universities in Ontario, and we look forward to ensuring students have equitable access to transportation moving forward. In addition, we're looking at some other projects relating to sustainability, housing accessibility, as well as methods to reduce supplementary educational costs, such as textbooks, for students. So those are some of the successes we've had, as well as some main areas we hope to focus in the coming year.
So it seems that MSU has a lot of success in the accessibility realm. So with this said, do you forecast any barriers or challenges in this fiscal year to come?
So certainly, I think remote education kind of reveals one of these because there have been lots of benefits regarding accessibility that have come from remote education. However, it has also caused some challenges for us, specifically in the realm of student engagement, campus life, and social connections. So lack of engagement has been apparent in all avenues, such as reduced involvement in student clubs, as well as reduced traffic within MSU services and businesses. And this has even spread to areas such as reduced engagement in, for example, the MSU elections. However, we are hopeful that the return to in-person, as well as all the new activities that will be coming back and new activities that we'll be introducing will kind of reinvigorate that loss of community or the loss of connections that have happened and hopefully ensure that we can recreate some of the amazing social environments that used to exist and still do exist in many ways within the McMaster community.
So being central to youth initiatives as well as engagement, as well as being the voice for the McMaster undergraduate community, has there been any barriers related to hiring youth or hiring more youth?
So, as many of us know, there's currently a very competitive labor market with most sectors struggling to fill roles, and ours is no exception. In addition, as I just mentioned, because of the reduced strength of the campus community, in large part due to the pandemic, there's still notable difficulties in ensuring students understand what roles are actually offered by the MSU and how students can partake in it. As I mentioned, we have many different positions that allow students to develop their collaborative leadership, analytical, writing, and communication skills, among others. These can also often happen in conjunction with peers, often for the purpose of students supporting other students. However, because there's been reduced vibrancy in the campus community, there have been fewer opportunities for students to form any of those long-lasting bonds and connections with MSU services or clubs and businesses. And this has kind of led to the reduced engagement and interest that I mentioned earlier. Now, this unique environment is something that is relatively specific to campus environments and student unions. So we hope that we can learn a lot from what has been experienced in the last few years and ensure that in the future we can come back to having a very vibrant, open environment in which students can be involved in the same ways and to the same depth that they used to be before the pandemic.
So kind of bandwagoning off of this engagement aspect, do you think that the decreased engagement in student community has in part kind of affected youth mental health? And what I really mean by this is, do you think that youth mental health has been in some part affected by the labor market or vice versa?
So I think this is definitely a very complicated question because there's so many different intertwining factors which impact the topic of mental health and the relationship with employment. So, of course, mental health is kind of a growing problem that has been apparent for a very long time, but only relatively recently has been more openly discussed. We often talk about many factors that everyone is kind of aware of, things like one's family environment, their social environment, or even things like, someone's genetics or hormones and how these can impact one's mental health. There's also things like social media that are often brought up or lack of exercise. However, there's many other greater societal factors that I don't think are discussed as commonly enough that do impact mental health. And certainly there's some like climate change, for example, there are these very big, complicated, pervasive factors that have to be solved in society. But youth in employment is definitely one of these. And I think its relationship to mental health has to be more openly discussed and more researched and more directly involved in policies and proposals that are taken forward by businesses, governments, and other organizations. This is because I think attaining gainful employment that is relevant to one's experiences or their expertise is vital to ensuring one can have financial stability, furthering of their career, and having that sense of security that is needed often for a sound mental state and often sound mental health as well. Now, there's many different challenges we face right now in society, and even though we do have quite many opportunities in the job market, this often isn't necessarily apparent for youth because youth often have less experiences and thus are still often shirked or sidestepped when they are applying for jobs. In addition, our current economic environment certainly does seem like it does appear that there may be some difficulties that will happen in the future, especially with how high inflation is and other interconnecting factors such as the high cost of housing. So specifically on the topic of employment, I think there's a lot more investment in ensuring that youth have access to employment that is relevant to their expertise, because this will ensure that they can have a strong financial and economic basis from which they can pursue other interests and also have the stability to ensure that they have, I guess, stable prospects for the future. So I guess to kind of summarize that point, employment is a very key aspect of mental health, and I think it has to be focused on more to ensure that youth do have access to ways in which they can further themselves and have, I guess, stable futures moving forward.
That's great. So, in your opinion, what industries are you interested in? So I know in Canada, I guess by extension the US, the software engineering industry, so tech and automation has definitely skyrocketed. But in your opinion, what do you think you are interested in?
So I guess I'll first speak to students at McMaster. So they're, of course, a very diverse group. There's, I believe, almost 30,000 undergraduate students at McMaster. So they have academic interests ranging in everything from business to engineering to the sciences, humanities, arts, and so many other areas that I didn't mention. And these, of course, relate to various industries in post-graduation as well. And McMaster is a very strong STEM presence, specifically in the medical field as well. But many of our social science, humanities, and commerce graduates as well are well represented in many arenas. So this means that youth, especially those coming from McMaster, have a very broad arena of different avenues in which they can pursue. Now, the modern economic landscape, however, has also evolved a lot from, say, our parents' generations or our grandparents' generations. If you think back 30 years, the idea of social media even then probably would have been so foreign and might have even seemed ludicrous at the time. However, even though the job market and I guess the types of jobs that are offered and the actual work that is done, even though that has evolved to a large degree, I think youth in the modern day, by and large, still desire many of the same stable, gainful, long-term employment opportunities that were enjoyed by previous generations in the West. And this has to some degree been lost because there's more precarious contract-based or I guess gig work that has come to prominence in the modern day. And that certainly has a role and certainly is important in many ways. But I do think we have to expand the opportunities by which we can ensure youth can achieve employment that is relevant to their expertise and has stability to ensure that they are successful for the future. The industries in which they are interested are very varied, as I had mentioned, but that key aspect of having stable, high quality employment for the long term is key across these industries, because I think it will ensure that you would have the opportunity to excel and really leave a mark wherever they put their focus to.
So kind of continuing off of that, so the COVID-19 pandemic has undoubtedly changed Canada's educational as well as professional landscapes. With this said, have you seen a shift from the beginning of the pandemic to now regarding youth and employment?
Regarding youth, sorry, did you say youth unemployment?
Youth and employment, or it could also be unemployment.
Oh, sorry, youth and employment. So certainly there's more job opportunities that are available now in a wide variety of sectors than were compared to just 2 years ago and kind of the height of the pandemic. So the student population is one that is generally under or unemployed, one of the most under unemployed group of workers, sorry. In addition, they're often overrepresented in areas such as seasonal work or frontline retail, customer service, hospitality, these kind of industries that were hit the strongest by the pandemic and the associated job losses that took place. Now, however, as mentioned earlier, the economic landscape in many ways has improved, and there's a significant opportunity for employment to be seeked. So in that sense, the situation has improved from just a couple of years ago. However, I think this is just a temporary kind of lull in potential negative outcomes that could occur in the near future. Youth have experienced 2 decades of basically stagnant wage growth. Ever since the 2008 financial crisis, there has been relatively few opportunities for new workers who are joining the job market, and the pandemic put a very strong hamper on that. Essentially, while temporarily right now we see some more job opportunities, I think the fact we have an economic landscape in which stagnation is possible, in which we have high inflation, and then a potential reversal in the future where the current significant number of opportunities reverses to potentially high unemployment. That is definitely a big worry. And I think that means that governments, organizations, businesses have to be very mindful of the next steps that are charted, because youth are a particularly vulnerable group because of the fact that they often don't have the necessary experiences to get employment as easily as individuals who have been in the workforce, and often because they don't have as many financial savings or assets to ensure that they can essentially survive a more difficult time. Thus, considering that we do have some potentially less than rosy economic, projections for the near term, it is important that we have strategies in place to help shelter youth from what they may experience moving forward.
That's great. So, as the MSU president and as being pretty integrated in the community, are there any last messages you would like to give youth from bridging the gap between youth employment and mental health?
Yeah, I would love to. So certainly, I think, as I mentioned, mental health and employment go hand in hand. They're very interconnected pieces that must be solved on a more societal level. Many of those kind of large overarching topics I had mentioned a few questions earlier about, things like climate change, things like the influence of how the job market has changed and how that has impacted availability for work. These all interconnect, as does employment opportunities with mental health. Thus, solving them individually, I don't think is a prudent course of action. We as a society have to understand how we can kind of take a multi-factored approach and solve and have kind of a large-scale structural change that can help solve these factors, because only if we do that can we actually create the necessary foundation for a better mental health environment for all in society, but of course youth as well, as we're discussing right now. In regards to youth, my recommendations would be just for individuals to try to increase their experiences, increase their base of knowledge and their expertise as much as they can. Often universities, such as McMaster, have ancillary fees that pay for items that can be used for students to expand their expertise base. So for example, McMaster has LinkedIn Learning, which is a very useful tool that can be used by individuals to gain new insights or experiences in a huge variety of different fields that they can then apply in the workplace. So certainly investing in that type of personal development, I think, is extremely important to ensuring that individuals can make themselves unique and really showcase why they are a very an exceptional candidate for a job opportunity. In addition, as mentioned earlier, as a society, but specifically government, businesses have to invest in opportunities to really grow youth. Sometimes businesses will hire youth simply because they feel that the costs of onboarding individuals with less experience or training them might be a little bit more burdensome than someone who already has that experience. I think increasing, for example, grant opportunities or avenues through which businesses have incentive to invest in youth is very important, because that can actually create an incentive to invest in youth and help foster them into more capable individuals, which is something we need. We need to invest in youth to help create a society that in the future is stable and is more productive, because of course youth will be youth will be the individuals who in the future will be the leaders and will have to make all of the important decisions that we face today, and many new important decisions that will come forth in the near term. So yeah, I think that summarized that point. But yeah, that's all I had to say on that topic.
Well, thank you, Simranjeet Singh, for being part of Workforce Planning Hamilton's interview series. That was great.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Amy. It was a pleasure. Yeah, and I really hope that everything I shared was very insightful, and I would love to come back in the future if that's possible. Thank you so much.
Yeah, of course. Thank you.